So since the dawn of time on Elbaf, Elbaf had one king at a time. And I'm here to talk about the fact that maybe it is not the right choice to have only one king on Elbaf. And hear me out until the end, because there's going to be a lot of information throughout this video. In the latest examples of what we got on Elbaf and who actually rules the kingdom of Elbaf, we had King Harold, and King Harold died 14 years ago in a very tragic moment and everything. And King Harold was trying to make peace with basically all of the giants by cooperating better and everything. And he was trying to make everybody live happily ever after and everything. And he was also trying to feed his people all the time, even when they would go hungry and everything. King Harold was literally an big example of how a king should treat his people, basically. But at the same time, King Harold was very naive, because he let himself basically become a slave to the world government, so that they gave him a shot into something, into pretending to make Elbaf better for the future, because all he wanted was for Elbaf to open up to the rest of the world, so that there would be trade in between the people of the Elbaf, and in between outsiders of Elbaf and everything. And he was really working towards making his goals real, basically. And that's why he even went all the way to become a slave for the world government, aka Emu and everything. And at the same time, he had a discussion with the Gorosei and everything, and that's how he was able to actually become, in the beginning, one of the steel of God, basically. And he basically made the contract. He made the third contract with Emu, not per se with seeing Emu, but made the third contract of becoming a steel of God, basically. And being in that position and everything, he had to do a lot. He had to go out there in the world and defeat so many pirates that would show up and try to do something in the world of One Piece. And he would show up whenever Emu would order him to go and do something. Basically, he was like a lapdog to the world government. And after everything, and after he made the second contract with Emu, and now he became a God's Knight, and he returned to Elbaf. That's when the treachery started, because that's when literally he was having a discussion with Emu, and Emu was telling him, now is the time for you to actually get a whole army, and you're gonna become basically a whole slave with every giant on Elbaf, and whenever I need you, you will fight for me. And King Harold was like, that's not what I signed for. I signed for, the fact that Elbaf can now become a friend of the world, and so that all of the sins of the giants would be wiped and everything. That's why he did that. So he didn't think that the contract would not just stop at him. He thought it would stop at him, but no. Contract is literally with him and his status, meaning the king of all the giants, meaning Emu can control all of the giants. And King Harold was trying to fight Emu, basically, internally, to the point of telling the guards to go and get Loki and get Yaru and everything, so that they can come and stop him. And that's what happened at the end of the day. And literally, King Harold died that day. And it was Loki who actually gave him the finishing blow, because even Shanks and Gaban were there, but they could not do nothing to King Harold, because King Harold, since he became a God's Knight, basically he can regenerate. So every time that he would get sliced by Gaban and Shanks, he would regenerate. And the fact that he had also Conqueror's Haki, basically King Harold was the strongest, probably the strongest character that Emu could control. And the fact that the strongest one got erased, basically, and destroyed by somebody in Elbaf, that literally made Emu not want to go to Elbaf for the next few years. And she was like, yeah, no, I don't want to send no one over there because we don't know what's hiding in Elbaf now. And I don't want to risk any of my God's Knights because it also appear that Imu gets something, like she gets hurt when one of the God's Knights actually dies. So maybe there's something in there, but that's a theory for another day. And so after that King Harold dies, now, no one's governing Elbaf. Maybe King Yarl is taking a lead in some of the decisions here and there, but he's not the king. And Elbaf truly needs a king because now it doesn't have no one. And that's why I'm saying that it might be a good idea to not have one, but two kings of Elbaf. Meaning, in this, maybe two brothers, Hajrudin and Loki. And hear me out. In Elbaf, we already had some of the biggest names, for example, Jarl and Yarul, and they were the captains of the giant pirate crew. And they both went out to the sea, went through many adventures, they learned so much about the outside world, and they came back safe and sound to Elbaf. Until, years later when Jarl kind of died because of Big Mom, but we're not going to talk about that right now. But throughout their life, the two of them together were able to keep themselves sane, keep themselves not naive, keep themselves in check and everything. And at the same time, they literally became some of the oldest giants on Elbaf up until the point where Yarol became the oldest giant of Elbaf at 400 plus years old. And so throughout their partnership, you see that everything went smooth and no one could actually come in between them and everything. And so that's why under their ruling, everything went good. And that's why I'm saying that maybe there's something weird on Elbaf that we don't know of yet, but maybe that two kings are better than one. Another example, we also got the next generation of the giant pirate crew, Dorian Broggy. Dorian Broggy were able to stay together, and yes, they had their differences, meaning they don't know who's the strongest and everything, and they went through 100 years worth of fighting, but they have the life expectancy to go through all of that, and they kept together in check, and they just made themselves stronger throughout the years, and they're still alive, and they're still going at it up until now, where they even became demons. So hopefully they will and transform from becoming demons. And Harold, and let me remind you also that Harold's last wish was for the two brothers to bond better and to unite to make Elbaf better. And so two kings might work, especially brothers. And now we have some pros and cons. For the pros, we can say that two kings are gonna have a better control over all of the island of Elbaf, and they will have a better control of all of the decisions that they have to take and all of the decisions that they don't have to take, and basically they will have a better control on everything, basically. And Elbaf couldn't be more happier, I guess, with two kings, because Elbaf would be just stronger and it would be a lot more strategic, because now they can afford good people that can take good decisions for the well-being of all the citizens of Elbaf. And maybe after everything gets settled, maybe that one of the kings of Elbaf can go with Luffy, like go all the way to the end of the One Piece world with Luffy and everything. Maybe that's the case, and if that's the case, I literally see Hajrudin being the king that will stay on Elbaf, and Loki the king that will go with Joy Boy, basically Luffy. And at the same time, we also have the same example for the Minks. The Minks are able to have two kings, and those two kings are able to coexist and unite the whole country into making it livable and better for everybody, because you have the king of the day and the king of the night. So that's from the same perspective, like it could work. And then for the cons, there are some. One of them is maybe Hajrudin doesn't want to rule with his brother Loki, or vice versa. Loki doesn't want to rule with Hajrudin also as a ruler, and just for that, it's not gonna work. Like if one of them is trying to go over the other, or vice versa, that's why it's not gonna work. Or also, let's say that one of them actually gets transformed into a demon. For example, Hajrudin gets turned into a demon. That's a possibility. You never know. And so if Elbaf wants to maybe do better, maybe it's gotta have two kings, meaning maybe Hajrudin and Loki at the same time. And just like I said, it will take some time, it will take some energy and some effort, but Hajrudin and Loki can have some common grounds, and they can come together so that they can make Elbaf all together for the future. And on that note, guys, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and your boy's gonna see you in the next one. Peace.